Hello and welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. And today we have the Bulleit Bourbon on the cask. And this is typical American whiskey, typical American bourbon whiskey. And it's a 45% ABV, 90 proof whiskey. I think it is from Buffalo Trace. Bulleit Bourbon is a Buffalo Trace. They just say where it's bottled, but I think it comes from Buffalo Trace. Not quite sure. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. And it's made, here it says made from pure Kentucky limestone filtered water in the Bulleit family tradition. Yes, the water in Kentucky is excellent water for whiskey production. It's filtered through the limestone. That's really a big thing down in Kentucky and also the north of Tennessee. And this water is perfect. That's why all the bourbon distilleries are located there, because it's just the perfect water for the distilling. Back in the days, it was much more interesting because you couldn't treat your water to get that same water from anywhere. But back in the days, they had to use the water from there because it just made the best whiskey you can. Interesting is that this bottle here isn't that nice, I don't know, woven bag, and it's a reminder to the American field bottle from their military. So you had a little bit longer and flatter, so it fits right on the belt or in the pocket or something like that. So this is like that shape. So you could have if you transport a few of these military water flasks, then you could put in a few Bulleit and it wouldn't look much different, except their glass. And let's come back to this Bulleit family tradition. From what I can remember, the Bulleit brand is gone more into the recipe of the old Bulleit style, and that was more with more rye and a bit more spicy. I'm not quite sure how do they say here. Finest corn, barley, and rye. And I think they have here in their mash bill, that's like the recipe for cooking the ingredients for whiskey. They use more than the usual rye in the bourbon whiskey. So this is the Bulleit bourbon whiskey is more of a bit of a tough bourbon and a bit of a definitely a bit of a spicy whiskey. And that's why it's also very popular within the mixing industry. So all the bartenders want to, if they use a normal bourbon, they want to have the vanilla, the caramel, the sweetness. They do have that as well, but it's also a bit topped off with a bit of a spicy note. So if you make your drink with a Bulleit bourbon, you always have a bit more character in your drink, and that's what most of the bartenders are looking for. It's not quite a pure rye whiskey, as it doesn't have 51% rye in it, but it's like a bourbon with more character. Ooh, a lot of oak. And that typical bourbon character. The typical bourbon character is that vanilla, that caramel, that sweetness. But here you always have that rye taste. And inside a whiskey, the rye always, for me, comes out a bit of a woody note. Not quite the oak, but more of a pine, something like that. Some needle trees, like some pine trees, yeah. And a bit of that, like a pine forest in the spring. Untypical for Kentucky, I think. Whoa, now it carries. Whew. So we start off like a normal, very soft bourbon. Not one of these typical sweet and straightforward sweet characters. More of like sweet vanilla, sweet caramel, slightly there, with a bit amount of oak. And when you swallow, you realize, oh, there's a good amount of rye in there. And the aftertaste is definitely, if I just had the aftertaste and a blind tasting, I would say definitely a rye whiskey. Maybe in a blind tasting, maybe many people would definitely say rye whiskey. It's just so much more character and so much more spiciness within that bottle. Love it. Love it. If you'd have that as like your everyday sipping whiskey or your everyday whiskey in the evening, you'd really have to love the rye flavor, the spicy flavor, that tough, rough and tough flavors that you can have in your whiskey. If you're one of these people who don't like the rye that much, so this might be something for you to get more closer to that flavor, because it's not a full rye whiskey, definitely not, but it has a lot of nuances from the rye whiskey within there, and it's a good balance between a rye whiskey and a normal bourbon whiskey. And it's not one of these very, very expensive ones. It's actually one of the whiskeys that is a bit lower in the price segment. So if you see that in your normal liquor store, you wouldn't see it where all the high class Scotch whatever is. This is more of the like, yeah, grab it and go. I think one of these type of whiskeys, but it's an excellent whiskey for that. For €20, $22 whiskey, it's been underpriced from my point of view. It's a nice whiskey. I like that. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. And if you found this video interesting, then please feel free to share it with your friends. And see you next time.